David Robinson, Artis Gilmore, George Gervin, LaMarcus Aldridge, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Patty Mills, Kawhi Leonard, Robert Horry, Derrick White, Mario Ellie, DeMar DeRozan, just to name a few. Who could be next in line to join the list of these notable and famous San Antonio Spurs? The San Antonio Spurs are, in my opinion, one of the most classiest, respectable franchises in the arena of sports. Very seldom do you hear stories about someone flying off the rails when it comes to the San Antonio Spurs. I don't think their quote-unquote rebuild will be that long. If I were an NBA free agent, the Spurs would be right at the top of my list of possibilities. Also, it would be a dream come true to be drafted or signed as an undrafted free agent to the San Antonio Spurs. Gregg Popovich has a way of pulling out the best of even the most mediocre players, which is what this video is about. There are a few free agents, I believe, that can have a turnaround in their career with the San Antonio Spurs, as well as some players that have been chasing that elusive NBA championship. Also, there are some trades that can be made to get some players in that have not panned out with their current teams. We'll discuss that as well. We'll also go over some players in the upcoming draft that could fit into the mold of the San Antonio Spurs, as well as grow in maturity faster than some of the other draft picks due to Pop's ability to turn boys into men. So let's get started with the free agents. Starting with the free agents on my list of possibilities, and these are just some names that I had, and some of these I wound up crossing off as I was building a potential roster for them. So I have Blake Griffin, currently of the Brooklyn Nets, as power forward. Facundo Campazzo of the Denver Nuggets as a point guard. Gary Harris, currently with the Orlando Magic, as a shooting guard. Interestingly enough, here I have James Harden with the Philadelphia 76ers. A lot is going to have to do with how they pan out in the playoffs this year. Cassius Winston, the one-time Michigan State Spartan, the Washington Wizards point guard. Maurice Wagner, the Orlando Magic power forward out of University of Michigan. They had a lot of promise for him, but somehow he fizzled away. I wish he would have stayed a Los Angeles Laker and they'd just let that team develop. I think he would have been a lot better player now. Well, I don't want to say a much better player, but I think he'd be more up in the middle to high tier position as far as players are concerned in the league. Had the Lakers just worked it out and won a few seasons and let the roster develop, but that's a whole nother story for another day. Also, free agent Mitchell Robinson out of the New York Knicks as the center position. So that was the list that I came up with for me as far as free agents to pursue. Now, the ones that made the list were Blake Griffin, Gary Harris, James Harden, and Mitchell Robinson. And starting with Blake Griffin, I mean, he's been around to several different teams. He was part of Lob City. He was part of the Brooklyn Nets team that was supposed to win it all this season, and that didn't transpire. So I think him moving over as a veteran to the San Antonio Spurs, working along with Pop might be able to point some things out in his game that he can work on, or he may just get him to adjust his game accordingly to match his age in the league. And, Pop is good about that. Gary Harris is another player. He was part of the Denver Nuggets team that was really making a lot of noise in the Western Conference, but he got traded for Aaron Gordon and just never, to me, fit in with the Orlando Magic. But Pop has a way with his guards, especially, and I think he would actually turn Gary Harris's career around, get him back to the I don't want to say the position that he was in, but he would get Gary Harris back to being one of the top shooting guards in the league. James Harden also, if there's anyone that could possibly converse with James Harden and get him to adjust his style of play, maybe get him, I don't want to say to settle down, but to get him, just kind of change one or two things about him and get him back to the superstar level that we're accustomed to seeing him at. And then Mitchell Robinson, center with the New York Knicks. And it looks like the New York Knicks may be doing a major rebuild as far as their roster is concerned. He's a free agent. And you know how the Spurs are with big men. Look at LaMarcus Aldridge. Look at David Robinson. Look at Tim Duncan. So bigs usually find success with the San Antonio Spurs. So that rounds it out as far as the free agents are concerned. Moving on to the draft picks. My first pick that I would have for the San Antonio Spurs, and like I said, they have very, very good success with big men, would be Nate Watson out of Providence at 6'10", 260-pound center, averaged 13.8 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, and shot 55% from the field. That will be the first pick that I have. I know they had 3 picks, but we're going to get into what happened to that other pick as well. And the second pick I would pick would be a Drake Jeffries out of Wyoming. San Antonio and three-pointers go hand in hand. Look at the days of Robert Horry being with the team. So they always have a nice a big three-point threat. And I think Drake Jeffries would fill that position. He's averaged 10.3 points per game this season, 5.4 rebounds per game, which is pretty big for a shooting guard. Averaged 0.7 assists per game, not that great there, but he did shoot 40.9% from three-point range. So I think those two could immediately be plugged into a rotation with the San Antonio Spurs, and like I said before, make this rebuild even shorter. Rounding out the draft picks is a undrafted free agent, I'm assuming. This guy may get overlooked, but it's Roman Silva, 7'1", 265-pound center out of Oregon State. He averaged 7.2 points per game, 4.6 rebounds per game, and shot a whopping 57.3% from the field. So with those 3, I think you could plug those 3 right into the rotation, and like I said, get the San Antonio Spurs back to. I'm not gonna say to win a championship right off the bat, but it'll get them probably in the 1 through 6 seeding as far as the playoffs are concerned. I think this roster has too much to be in a play-in game of any sort. So I think they'll just flat out be in the playoff rankings. And as far as the trades are concerned, I'm gonna say the blockbuster trade recommendation to the end. But one of the trades I have is Jock Landale going to the Oklahoma City Thunder / Oklahoma City Blue for DJ Wilson. DJ Wilson is a power forward. I was hoping he would do really well in the pros. He was on the same roster with the Wolverines, University of Michigan Wolverines, as Jordan Poole and a couple other guys, and I just wish his career would have gone better than it's been going, because he still has a lot of potential. And like I said, a lot of these young guys, when they get up under Pops, they'll turn it around, and he'll pull a lot more out of them than they even knew that they had within themselves. So Jock Landale for DJ Wilson. Also trade Zach Collins. Nothing wrong Zach Collins, but I would move on from Zach Collins. Know he has some issues and some injuries going on, but I will trade him to the Utah Jazz for Juan Hernan Gomez, who is a serviceable power forward. I believe he used to play for the Denver Nuggets. Um, yeah, I used to always call him Honcho out here in Denver. But he can get you some points in the paint and get you some rebounds as well, and just be a journeyman for you. Another trade I would make is I'm sorry if I mispronounce his name. Poltel. Jacob Poltel, I believe, was one of their top picks in the past few drafts at this center position. Big guy, pretty skillful level, pretty skillful guy. And what I would be doing is I would trade him over for journeyman Mason Plumlee from the Charlotte Hornets. I'm a big Mason Plumlee fan. He seems to go out there and hustle and give it 100%. I never really seen him slack off. Being a Detroit Pistons fan, I wish that we would have made a better choice as far as who we let go of. Pistons fans know who I'm talking about there. Yeah, Mason Plumlee was the hustle that this team was missing this past season. So, but yeah, I would put him over there with the San Antonio Spurs for Jacob Poeltl. Moving on, the big trade that I was talking about here is we'll have Trey Jones, Doug McDermott, DeJounte Murray, and first round pick in the upcoming draft going to Atlanta for Trey Young. From what I've been hearing, Trey Young may want out of Atlanta. I mean, he's been there, 2 or 3 seasons, and I say they did pretty good as far as making the playoffs. You don't come in as a rookie like that and get on a team unless you go to somewhere like Golden State and make it, to the playoffs in consecutive years. But he has led that team to the playoffs the past few seasons. And but from what I understand, the buzz is that he may want out, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for him as well to take advantage of what Pops has to offer as far as maturing players, and I don't know, it's just something about him. He just brings out a lot more than what these players think they have. Just when you think a player may have hit his ceiling, Pops brings out a lot more for him. Look at what he did with Kawhi Leonard, turned Kawhi Leonard into a perennial all-star. So yeah, those are just some of my thoughts and recommendations as far as what would work out. Also, another player, I don't know if I mentioned this already, was Romeo Langford being traded to Detroit for Killian Hayes. Killian Hayes is a young point guard, and I think he could also benefit from being in the system with the San Antonio Spurs and Gregg Popovich. That's my take on it. I'll get over to the projected starting unit and the second units here in a second. But yeah, it just will be exciting to see what becomes of Blake Griffin, Gary Harris, James Harden, Killian Hayes, and Trey Young, and DJ Wilson being up under Gregg Popovich. It'd be interesting to see what they will become, the leaps and bounds that they will make being in that Spurs organization. As far as the draft picks are concerned, they're good to go. Like I said, Nate Watson, Drake Jeffries, and Roman Silva, you can just plug them in and they can be part. They'll have an impact on the team as well. Players sticking around from the current roster will be Josh Richardson, Lonnie Walker IV, Devin Vassell, and Josh Primo and Keldon Johnson. Those will be players that still remain on the roster from this past season here. And as far as your lineups are concerned, of course you're going to have Trey Young as a starting point guard. James Harden as a shooting guard. And like I said before, Nate Watson is a beast. He reminds me of LeBron James, but he plays the center position. He'd be starting as a center. Keldon Johnson will be starting as a small forward, and Lonnie Walker the fourth will be starting at the power forward. Those two guys contributed this past season with the San Antonio Spurs, so I don't think it's justified to diss them in any way at all. Moving on to your second unit will be Killian Hayes, Josh Richardson, another holdover as the shooting guard. Mitchell Robinson, the free agent acquired, would be your center. Mason Plumlee, it was a toss-up between Mason Plumlee and Juan Hernan Gomez as far as the small forwards are concerned in this second unit, but I went with Mason Plumlee and DJ Wilson as the power forward. I don't think DJ Wilson is done yet, and like I said, Pops would bring out a lot more out of him, and could possibly see another situation as we saw with the Kawhi Leonard, where this guy becomes a superstar in the league. As going to the bench, we have Gary Harris, Devin Vassell. Those are the two of the shooting guards off the bench. Juan Hernan Gomez as a small forward. Blake Griffin, power forward. It'd be very interesting to see what becomes of him, and I would hope that he would get a championship with the Spurs being up under Pop. Drake Jeffries, the shooting guard. Roman Silva will be your center coming off the bench, and Joshua Prima will be your shooting guard. So that's just my take on it. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section. I can hear it now. Hey, this would never happen. James Harden would never become a Spur. Or Trae Young. Oh, Atlanta will never trade Trae Young. Hey, stranger things have happened. So we'll see. That's just my take on it. I want to hear your take on it, and appreciate you taking a look at this video. Thank you.